Hello, my dear recipients. Magandang buhay. Now, let's have the next chapter of your research. Remember that the theme of this year's Research Seminar Forum 2020 is equipping the student researchers, you being the student researchers, with the recent trends in the new normal. And for this chapter, let's have the fourth, which is the presentation, analysis, and interpretation of data. Chapter 4 deals with the findings of your study, which are usually presented in tabular form. This collected information were based on the data you have gathered, either through interview or a set of questionnaires, which were retrieved from your respondents. It includes the analysis and discussion, as well as the interpretation of results that specifically answers the questions posted in the statement of the problem, which are indicated in Chapter 1. This chapter starts with an introduction that will bring in the presentation of the findings as well as analysis which were derived from the survey. Let me give you an example. A total of 102 respondents were received from the targeted 180 potential respondents, which constitutes a 56.7% response rate for the survey. Out of 102 respondents, 79.8%, or about 81 of them, have completed all of the questions that were required to be answered, and only 20.2%, or about 21, have either exited the survey halfway or did not attempt to answer some of the questions. The responses gathered from the survey have been analyzed using an appropriate statistical tool. This chapter solely focuses on presenting the gathered data in a meaningful way to facilitate the discussion, which will be presented in Chapter 5. This chapter also, at the outset, provides the background to the respondents by analyzing their demographic details. This is followed by the findings and analysis of data and the summary. The findings and analysis has incorporated general and cross-tabulation analysis, primarily on the broad themes that include demographics, enabling environment, awareness, and motivation. Tables and diagrams have been used to facilitate a simplistic, reader-friendly writing. And finally, the summary of this chapter is provided. Let's take some examples that will serve as your guide in doing your research later on. The first one is about the profile of the respondents, and it is being presented in table form. Table 1 is about the ages of the respondents. If you look at the table, the data that you have collected are now being presented in this form. Table 1 shows the profile of the respondents in terms of ages. Notice that ages 16 and 15 got the highest frequency, of 26 and 19, respectively. And of course, they ranked first and second. Respondents who are 16 years old are more than half, that is, 52%, while those 15-year-old is 38% of the total respondents. Other age groups has the following frequencies. 17 years old got 5, which is 10%, and there are no 14-year-old respondents. Also, notice that 52% is obtained by dividing the frequency, which is 26, by the total respondents, which is 50. The next slide is a vacant table about the age of the respondents, which will be your activity. For you to have to be very good during your research, you have to have a taste of how table 1 is being done. So using the first table as your example, you can now have this table as your exercise. This slide, I mean. Okay. The next table shows the demographic profile of the respondents in terms of gender. Notice that in table 2, the frequency, the percentage distribution, and the ranking of respondents' gender are being presented. And look, both genders have a frequency of 25 or 50% of the total. It clearly shows that there are equal number of female and male teachers who were part of the sample. Thus, the rank of each is 1.5. How do we get 1.5? We add 1 plus 2 and divide it by 2. Okay? The next slide is again your exercise. Take this table as your activity. Have the last slide as your example. Okay? Now we move to the next table, table 3, which is about the family monthly income. This table shows the profile of parents' income. Most of the respondents checked the 10,000 and below bracket with a frequency of 26 and a percentage of 52, placing it as rank 1. Rank 2 has a frequency of 16 out of 50 with a range of 11,000 up to 20,000 pesos. Looking at the table, notice that only 2 out of the 50 parent respondents fall on the bracket 31,000 and above. Okay, the next slide, which is table 3, a blank table, is again your activity. So, following table 3 a while ago, please have this as your example. Okay, that's it. Now we come to the second part of our presentation. The second part is about the factors affecting the student academic performance, and it's being summarized in Table 4. Look, we have four columns. The first one are the student factors, the interest in mathematics, categorized into four. In other words, there are four factors affecting the student's interest in mathematics. The first one, make extra effort to math. The second, listen carefully to the lecture. Next is active participation in discussion. And the last one, get frustrated when during the discussion there was an interruption or when the teacher is absent. The second column is about the weighted mean. The next is interpretation of the result. And the last column is the rank of the four factors. Looking at Table 4, the highest rank as to the factors affecting students' performance is listen carefully to the lecture in mathematics with a weighted mean of 4.4. Rank 2 is make extra effort in studying with math or studying mathematics with a weighted mean of 4.3. The next factor is item 3, which is actively participate in discussion. And the last factor is get frustrated when discussion is interrupted or the teacher is absent. The next part of our discussion is about the appropriate statistical tools that you may use during your analysis of the collected data. Let's discuss the very common tools that you can use. Now, if you are analyzing the respondent's profile as to gender, age, educational attainment, and others, the percentage is obtained by using the formula F over N times 100, where F is the frequency and N is the total respondents. Let's have a very simple example, and let's go back to Table 1. If you remember in Table 1, 26 out of 50 respondents are 16 years old. If you want to analyze this further, then using the formula, divide 26 by the total respondents, which is 50, then multiply by 100. The result is 52%. This means 52% of the respondents, or 26 respondents, are 16 years old. Is it very clear with one example? I am very sure if you'll be having your research, then this will be very good already. Common mistakes is about the use of this formula. Okay? The next one is when you are using the Likert scale, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, where 5 is very strongly agree, 4 strongly agree, 3 agree, 2 moderately agree, and 1 disagree. Then you will use the weighted mean. And the formula to get the weighted mean is summation of fx over n. Okay, let's go back to the table about the factors affecting the student's interest in mathematics. There is there a column which indicates the weighted mean. Let's see how this column is obtained. Suppose in this table there are 10 respondents. There are 10 student respondents. Then let's have items 1, 2, 3, 4, and let us see how the 10 respondents will score the items. They must be ranked as to who will be given a 5, a 4, a 3, or a 2. Okay, let's analyze this example. The first row are the student respondents, student 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 10. The second row are now the scores, indicates the scores of each of the students for item 1. So, item 1 is make extra effort to math. Student 1 scored 5 for item 1, which is very strongly agreed. Student 2 scored 4, student 3 scored 5, student 4 scored 4, student 5 scored 4, student 6 scored 4, student 7 scored 3, student 8 scored 5, student 9 scored 4, and the last student 10 scored 5 for the first item. Okay? Now, the next row column, is 43. How did we get 43? We add all the scores. 5 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 3 plus 5 plus 4 plus 5. And the total is 43. Then we divide 43 by 10 because there are 10 students. And 43 divided by 10 is 4.3. This 4.3 is the weighted mean. And if we look back on the table, that is the weighted mean for item 1. Make extra effort to math. Okay? For second item, we do the same. Each of the 10 students gave their scores. And if you take the sum, that is now equal to 44. Dividing it by 10, we have the second weighted mean, which is 4.4. The third item, which is actively participate in discussion, has also the corresponding scores for the 10 students. Do the same, add the different scores. The total is 32. Divide that by 10, we have the third weighted mean, which is 3.2. Also, do the same for the last item. And adding the different scores of the 10 students, the total is 21. Dividing 21 by 10, we have 2.1. That is the process on how the four weighted means under the column weighted mean are obtained. Okay, if you look at the fifth one, there is a weighted mean which is the overall weighted mean, 3.5. How do you get that? Add the column under total, which is 43 plus 44 plus 32 plus 21, and then divide that by 40. Dividing it by 40 will give us 3.5. You can verify it if you have your calculator with you. Later on, if you will review this presentation, you can find it for yourself. You can verify it for yourself how 3.5 is obtained. Any question? This is very important in your uh, computation of data, in your analysis of data. And after getting the different weighted means below your table, that's where you will explain the meaning of each of this computation. Is it very clear now? So expect that the next slide, if there is none, then you can do it. You have to do your own activity, your own example, have a taste on how the weighted mean is obtained, so that when you are already in your actual research, in your actual presentation of data in your research, then it would be very easy for you. Any question? Okay, the next one is, I am very sure, the table I am giving you. This is for you. Look back on the last table. Try to think of an activity where you can use the Likert scale and then have the different scores. You can just limit the students to make your computation shorter to 5 students, and then have as many factors as you can. You can have 5 factors, get the weighted mean, and also the overall weighted mean. Any questions so far? Is that table 4 very clear now? Can you make your own computation later on? Okay, yes. If you have no more questions, then thank you very much for listening. Of course, you can always go back to this presentation. You can review each of the slides, the part which is not very clear. You can always review so that when you will do your own research paper, it will be very easy for you. Thank you. Have a nice day. Magandang buhay ulit, my dear recipients.